Hi, I'm Luana Rubin from Equilter.com, and this week I'm here to share with you some of the fabrics that we have carried from the very beginning of our business that we love so deeply and passionately, and that is Japanese indigo fabrics. We just recently got in this collection that's a great example of fabrics that are really faux Ikat or faux Bordeaux, and I'd like to talk about what is a Boro, what is an Ikat, and how are these fabrics made in Japan. When I go to the Tokyo Quilt Festival, sometimes I'm offered to buy an antique piece. You can see the piece behind me is one of those pieces that I bought last year. The very first year that I went, I was offered a 100-year-old boro piece, which is a patchwork from the countryside of northern Japan. So last week when we got in this collection from Moda, I thought, oh my gosh, this is like a faux Bordeaux. Now, people who are really aficionados of Japanese fabrics will know exactly what this is, but I would say the average person really has no idea. So you can see that this is a faux patchwork, and it just looks like, I mean, somebody who didn't know what it was might think, oh, that's like a denim patchwork or something, but no, this is a faux patchwork of what would be hand-loomed, hand-stenciled, handmade Ikats that are perhaps 50 to 100 years old often. So if you take a look, put this over here, as you scan down through these different fabric designs for Moda, and of course they're all in different shades of indigo, you can see there's dark and light, and of course the light ones would be more, they're representing more antique or washed or used Bordeaux or fabrics. Now I want to show you this antique piece that I bought. And you can see there are all different kinds of fabric here. So it's not, you know, these days quilters maybe will say, oh, you only can mix prints, or you can only mix yarn dyes together. Well, here we have basically the leftover patches of the clothing and the panels and the gift wraps perhaps that were used on this Japanese farm 50 to 100 years ago. So you can see there are yarn dye stripes, there are stencils, and this piece doesn't have real intricate Ikats, but I have an example of a new unused, this is actually an antique, but it's been preserved so nicely it looks new. So traditional Ikats are made by hand. The warp and the weft, sometimes one, sometimes both, are space dyed by hand, and in this case the original ones were hand dyed, as of all of these indigo fabrics, with the indigo plant. These were all vegetable dyes basically. So what we're doing with this collection is we're replicating that. And we can't all afford to go to Tokyo and buy these antique pieces, right? But we can replicate that look. So you can see that this Ikat, this actual yarn-dyed antique Ikat, is replicated in these pieces here that are printed to look like an Ikat. I think that's pretty cool. So in addition, these Sashko pieces, the original Sashko pieces, or boros, were very utilitarian quilts that were made to keep the farmers warm in the north of Japan in the winter. And their winters are not quite as cold as what we have here in Colorado, for instance. But they would basically take a patchwork of their old clothing, they would cut it up and stitch it together in a very rough kind of patchwork, not a neat patchwork that we would think of some of our traditional patchwork, because it was very utilitarian. And they would make a sandwich, but often the sandwich would be made with straw or even hemp, just to create some depth. But of course they didn't have regular batting that we use today. So Sashko is another topic that we can talk about. This was the origins of Sashko, and here we have an antique, a beautifully preserved antique example of Sashko stitching much later. And of course we have fabrics that replicate Sashko. We have pieces, I have one here for instance, where its design is printed on it, and you can actually stitch with the Sashko thread and the Sashko needles and create your own Sashko stitching like this piece here. And so I just wanted to let you know also that we carry all of those supplies. We carry several different brands of Sashko threads, both in the balls of yarn, but also in these skeins. And we carry not only the traditional colors of blue and white and even cream and variegated, but we also have rainbow colors and variegated and brights. And of course you need to have Sashko needles. So This is just a little taste. There are a lot of things that I'd love to share with you from my travels, from my background as a fabric designer. And you can watch for more videos on this topic in the very near future. Bye-bye.